please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Halftime Report. It's 12 noon. We're halfway through the trading session. So far, it's been a bit of a quiet day for our markets. The benchmark indices are mildly lower, so down about 0.25%. Lost ground in the last 30 minutes or so. The mid-caps and the bank nifty are just about holding on to the green line. Hi.
Hi, Rima. Well, in fact, we are moving into the red. And in fact, we just breached the 11,400 mark on an intraday basis. Now, in fact, just protecting that mark as we speak. The Nifty should come up for you. Intraday basis, we broke 11,400. Actually, from the low point of the day, we are bounced close to around 20 points out very, very briskly. I think a couple of stocks are fighting for the Nifty as we speak. Bajaj Finance, that's moving higher. Remember, that's seen a sharp correction, but in the last few minutes, a bit of a bounce on that one. And even Sun Pharma, an otherwise weak market, holding with a gain of around 1.2%. But time for all our movers and shakers then. And let's start off the segment with Rima on IT stocks. Well, Rima, you were telling us yesterday that various analysis in terms of how much IT stocks are likely to gain. Today, we have a few brokerages as well that have come out with notes. Tell us, what are they saying?
Well, yes, it's UBS, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch and Macquarie which have written on the IT sector. So let me start with Infosys because that's clearly the big mover in the large cap IT pack. So UBS believes that the currency gains create an opportunity for the company to accelerate investment. So they're expecting a faster constant currency growth in FY20. They've upped their revenue EPS estimates by 4 to 7%, taking into account the rupee weakness, and they've kept the target price at 850, so a good 100 rupees plus from here on. Bank of America Merrill Lynch believes that it's realistic to assume that the companies will be able to retain 10% rupee depreciation benefits because conversations with vendors do not start off with the first fall in the rupee, and plus IT companies had to bear the brunt of rupee appreciation in the prior year. Macquarie says the benefit to the companies will be different, but the biggest positive benefit will be to TCS, Tech Mahindra and Persistent. They've upgraded Wipro and Hexaware to an outperform from a neutral rating on the basis of valuations. So Wipro target price 350, for Hexaware it is 560, and in the argument between Infi and TCS, they believe Infi should continue to trade at a 20% discount to TCS. Now, we'd gotten chatting with the CFO of Tech Mahindra to get a sense of the benefit to the company on the back of rupee depreciation, and he also believes that yes, the initial 5-10% of the rupee depreciation benefit could be retained by the industry, going by the past instances. For the company per se, the rupee depreciation will improve their margins. A 1% rupee depreciation benefits their margins by about 15 to 20 basis points, but they do not see an impact on the bottom line, and that is because the company has hedged 75% of its inflows at a price of 71.5 rupees, and the hedging gains in FY19 will be less than that of FY20. So that could be the reason why the stock is under pressure, down close to about 1.5%, because at the bottom line, they do not see a benefit, though they continue to be very optimistic about the telecom vertical, having signed $300 million of deal wins in the telecom vertical in the current quarter that we're in. Listen into the management.
We have hedged most of our, about 75% of our next exposure for the next 12 months is hedged already. And I think it's hedged at around 71.5 or so on an average to the dollar. So what we will see is that last year we had a large amount of hedge gains, which will not be there this year and the next 12 months. But effectively, the EBITDA will go up. So at a net level, I think there won't be much of an impact. If I look at the communications vertical, I think the momentum continues. I think at the end of Q2, we had said that at the end of Q1 when we were doing the results, we had said in Q2 we had won 200 million of TCV already, and that has gone up to 300 million TCV. So incrementally more positive on the communication side. So that momentum continues. I would expect that Q2 total deal wins will be much higher than Q1.
Well, the IL&FS group on the whole has been in focus, but Lata is with us. She's going to run us through banks that have exposure to this group. Lata.
Okay, well, actually, we must know the gravity of the downgrade, which came actually yesterday, and today a further set of subsidiaries, their solar power subsidiary and other subsidiaries are also downgraded. It's a downgrading 7 notches lower. So it's, you know, as late as August it was AAA, and now goes 7 notches down to BB, which is actually, no, not 7, okay, 11 notches down to BB, which is actually junk status. So that would be equivalent to NPA. Now, what Nomura says is that they have gone through the entire exposure. It is a 90,000 crore exposure to the banking, in all, of which 57,000 crore is to the banking system, and the remaining are short term, that is debentures, CPs, etc. So that about 1/3 is in the form of CPs, etc., would be around 30,000 crores, and another 57,000 crores to banks. What they find is most of the private sector banks have very little exposure, amounting to Axis 0.25% of Axis's book. So that's not all that small. And then you have 0.1 to 0.15% of Yes Bank's loans. So it's not 0.15% of the total 90,000 crore, but 0.15% of Yes's book is exposed to this. SBI of the public sector banks has a very small exposure, considering that it's actually one of the shareholders of IL&FS. Higher exposure is for PNB, BOB and Union Bank. Now, Nomura adds that they have not been able to research the entire 57,000 crore. They've gone through the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, that is basically the ROC, and they have found out exposures for 36,000 crore of the loan, not for the entire 57,000 crore. So of that 36,000 crore, what they find is private sector banks access 0.25% of their own book, and yes, 0.1 to 0.15% of its own book. The exposure for PNB, BOB and Union works out to about 1% of their own FY18 loan book. Actually, not 1%, 0.5% to 1% of their own book. So that could be substantial for PNB, BOB and Union. SBI's exposure is low, and maybe much of it is already NPA in SBI's books, but for the rest of the banking sector, it could be standard. So there is this another big load coming. If it is not resolved, then you know, there is more recognition coming.
Okay, Lata, thank you very much for that. Let's move on and talk about dredging. That's a stock which has gained quite a bit in today's trade. Let's get the intraday chart up for you on your screen. Sources tell Network 18 that the government is looking to sell its stake. For more details, let's go across to Lakshman Roy from CNBC Awaaz. Lakshman?
हाँ, जो मुझे सोर्सेज से जानकारी मिली है उसके मुताबिक गवर्नमेंट अपना पूरा स्टेक जो ड्रेजिंग कॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ इंडिया में है उसे पोर्ट ट्रस्ट की 3 कंपनियों को बेचने जा रही है। ये पोर्ट ट्रस्ट की 3 कंपनियां हैं, विशाखापट्टनम पोर्ट ट्रस्ट, पारादीप पोर्ट ट्रस्ट और न्यू मैंगलोर पोर्ट ट्रस्ट। और इसके लिए शिपिंग मिनिस्ट्री ने प्रपोजल दिया था, इसको इंटर मिनिस्ट्रियल ग्रुप ने इसको अप्रूव कर दिया है और कैबिनेट से किसी भी वक्त इस पर मंजूरी मिल सकती है। और इसमें 2 खास बात है। पहली बात तो ये कि ब्लॉक डील के जरिए तीनों कंपनियां डीजीसीआई में हिस्सेदारी खरीदेंगी। दूसरी चीज, इसमें विशाखापट्टनम पोर्ट ट्रस्ट जो कंसोर्शियम में लीड पोर्ट की भूमिका में रहेगी, यानी विशाखापट्टनम पोर्ट ट्रस्ट को सबसे ज्यादा हिस्सेदारी लेनी है। और इसमें जो शिपिंग मिनिस्ट्री ने प्रपोजल में जो लॉजिक दिया है वो ये है कि ड्रेजिंग कॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ इंडिया जो कि पोर्ट सेक्टर से जुड़ी हुई कंपनी है, तो पोर्ट सेक्टर से जुड़ी हुई कंपनी अगर इसको हिस्सेदारी लेती है तो बेहतर तालमेल होगा। और साथ ही साथ गवर्नमेंट के रिसेंट जो इनिशिएटिव है, जैसे वाटरवेज बनाना, नए पोर्ट बनाना, नए टर्मिनल बनाना, इसमें ड्रेजिंग का कारोबार बहुत ज्यादा होता है। ऐसे में आने वाले दिनों में ड्रेजिंग कॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ इंडिया को ज्यादा कारोबार मिलेगा। और तीसरी चीज कि ये पोर्ट ट्रस्ट की कंपनियों के पास सरप्लस फंड है, वो अपने फंड का इन्वेस्टमेंट करेंगे ड्रेजिंग कॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ इंडिया में, इनकी हालत और ज्यादा बेहतर हो सकेगी। और एक बार कैबिनेट का अप्रूवल हो गया तो फिर यहाँ पे इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइजर नियुक्त किया जाएगा, जो ब्लॉक डील के जो प्राइसेस है वो तय करेंगे, ब्लॉक डील के समय जो होगा वो तय करेंगे।
All right, thanks so much for that, Lakshman. Well, that's a big mover today, up close to around 10% as we speak. But in an otherwise weak market, Tata Power as well as buzzing and trade is holding in the green with a gain of around 3%. Early today, in an exclusive conversation, we spoke to the MD and CEO of the company on their plans for bidding for debt-laden power assets. Let's listen in to what they had to tell us.
Resurgent has very many filters for taking any project. It looks at projects who have the latest state-of-the-art equipments, especially supercritical plants are the ones that it is looking at. It also looks at plants which have very, very attractive tariff. That means it should have a coal mine linked to it, or it has a linkage from Coal India. It should also have a PPA, a long-term PPA for. Normally, the debt equity for all power plants is 70-30. So that's the type of numbers that we look at. For Tata Power, of course, we are going through huge amount of consolidation. We are deleveraging our balance sheet. And we are also focusing in terms of the new business opportunities in renewable and value-added services. So there is a huge push now that we are giving. What we understand is that most of the banks have already approved. In some, the process is on, and they are expecting their board meetings to happen in next 1 week to 10 days time. And thereafter, they will also inform the consortium leader that this is the position.
Okay, Lata has just picked up that the Supreme Court has ordered a status quo on all cases under the Feb 12 circular, and this will come as a relief to all the cases which would have been sent to the NCLT on account of this Feb 12 circular. Lata, you want to throw some more color on the developments?
Yeah, we did get that, some time back, that the Supreme Court has asked all the cases that are being that have been registered in various courts, challenging the Reserve Bank's February circular and saying that people be granted more time before they are dragged to the NCLT. Just by way of background, the February circular said that all assets over 2,000 crore and stressed for 6 months should be taken to the NCLT. They got 6 months, and that time ended on August 28. Banks got 2 weeks to take them to the NCLT, file in the NCLT, and that 2 weeks ends today, September 11th. And today the Supreme Court has given the relief. So it's just like, absolutely in the nth hour, the Reserve Bank's circular has been kind of stopped on its tracks. Now the cases involved are about 70 cases. Almost half of them are power cases, and we know the ones that the various JP Power companies, the various GMR power companies, various Lanco power companies, all those are part of that. And there are non-power cases like Reliance Naval, like Punj Lloyd. Many of them had taken the circular to court in various courts. Punj Lloyd had registered in the Delhi High Court. The shipyards, I think Reliance Naval and some other shipyards had registered a case in the Ahmedabad High Court. In Chennai, you had RKM and ILNFS Power. So all these cases have been summoned to the Supreme Court to be heard together. But what has come as a setback for the Reserve Bank circular is that this is going to be heard in November, and until then, it is status quo. So you can't file cases immediately. Now, it's not a major negative in the sense that anyway the NCLTs are full. They are backed up like 4,000 cases, 2,000 have got registered, another 2,000 are yet to be registered. So this 70 will not come into the queue very soon. So they would be waiting in the queue, and therefore it is not a major loss. And if there can be an out-of-court settlement, like in the case of Prayagraj, which Praveer Sinha of Tata Power just told us, it could also be seen as positive. But it is a sentiment negative, because you now wait to see what will the court say about the circular. Until now, all the courts and the Supreme Court had not stopped the circular. But now, with about 24 hours to lapse, the circular has been kind of stopped on its track. But let's wait and see what the Supreme Court says when it meets. Basically, right now, you can't take them to NCLT.
Okay, so power companies are not going to be sent to the NCLT, at least for now. We'll wait by for the Supreme Court directive in November.
Also for Reliance Naval, Punj Lloyd, non-power as well.
Non-power, okay. All right. Let's move on then. One of the stocks that are on our radar, I think it's Century Ply. We'd gotten chatting with the management earlier today, and the Century Ply, of course, was on focus on account of rupee depreciation seen in the rupee, rising commodity prices and yields. We'd gotten chatting with the company to discuss the impact on business. We had spoken to Sanjay Agarwal, the MD and CEO of the company, regarding the forex debt and the impact on the EBITDA margin. Listen in.
Presently, a total outstanding is about 27 million. Out of that, I think about 17 is for long term, the 10 is for short term. Out of 27 million, 17 million is hedged already. EBITDA margin is concerned. In our panel division, you see, we have about 15% EBITDA margin. It may be impacted for a quarter, maybe maximum, because we are unable to increase our prices earlier But now we have already increased our prices to that extent.
Okay, here's a quick recap then of all the buzzing stocks we just covered. IT stocks, top of mind. You have Infosys, Wipro, Tech Mahindra. You also have the Island FS Group that's in focus, Dredgen Corp, Tata Power, and finally, Century Plyboards. Let's shift focus then to a CNBC TV18 exclusive. Sources tell us here at CNBC TV18 that the insurance regulator is in consultation with SEBI to review IPO rules for insurance companies. Yash Shane joins us with more details on that. Yash, over to you.
Well, absolutely. The insurance regulator has reached out to SEBI suggesting certain changes and amendments with respect to IPO regulations for insurance companies. To start with the first one, and this is with respect to diversifying and broad-basing the shareholding reservation pattern for the insurance IPOs. Here, essentially to reduce the concentration of risk and broad-base the shareholding reservation pattern, IRDA is likely to have suggested to reduce the QIB portion in any insurance IPO from the current point of 50%, and essentially then later on that reduced portion out of the QIB section should be distributed amongst the various other shareholding categories, be it retail, be it HNI, so on and so forth. The second and the most important point is with respect to the minimum public shareholding norms. Of course, we know that all the listed companies are essentially mandated to dilute 25% of equity in public within 3 years of listing. IRDA here has said that it's not likely and it's not ideal for any insurance company to transfer 25% of the risk in public within that short period of 3 years. Hence, a time extension should be given to the insurance companies as far as that particular dilution of 25% is concerned. If not a time extension, then the quantum of 25% should be reduced. If this particular point materializes in terms of any regulation, and if it is retrospective, then it will benefit a lot of these listed insurance companies, be it ICICI Prudential Life, be it GICRE, be it New India Assurance, as well as SBI Life and HDFC Life, as all these companies have a significant quantum which they are yet to dilute into the market to comply with that 25% public shareholding norm. The third one is with respect to raising debt via Tier 2 bonds. Right now, insurance companies are only allowed to raise up to 25% of their net worth via Tier 2 bonds. IRDA here has suggested to raise this particular limit, possibly take it to 40 to 45% of any insurance company's net worth.
The Road Network, that's a stock in focus on the back of the company being referred to NCLT for liquidation by creditors 10 months after being listed. Now, a lot of issues really to discuss. Remember, the listing price was in excess of around 200, and from there, the stock has been downhill. To discuss that and more, we're currently joined by Mr. Bajrang Kumar Chaudhary, the MD of the company. Thanks so much, Mr. Chaudhary, for joining in, sir. First, I wanted your comment on this. You came to the market, you raised some money just a short while back, and from IPO to NCLT, from a shareholder's point of view, it's quite horrific, if I could say that. You tell us, sir, what's going on there? You have a couple of these parties, a creditor, Religare Finvest, who is, has moved NCLT. What's your response on this? You're contesting it, I believe. Give us your version of it.
Well, I don't think so. It's too concerning for us because, if you see the amount is small and, there has been a dispute with Religare on that. And both sides, are trying to sort of resolve it. And we are quite hopeful that, we will be able to resolve this between us. So I don't see this as a major concern for the shareholders. And on the business front, I mean, businesses, as we are doing good in terms of traffic growth, in terms of the sort of the revenue that we see for the company. So this small piece of NCLT issue which has come up, I'm sure we'll be able to resolve it and shouldn't be that concerning to the shareholders.
Okay, so how soon do you expect a resolution so the case can get withdrawn from the NCLT, Mr. Chaudhary?
Sorry, I've not been able to hear you properly.
No, how soon do you expect that you can resolve the matter with Religare so the case can get withdrawn from the NCLT?
I think in the next couple of months, I think we should be pretty much okay, be able to resolve this.
Okay. You also spoke about, that business is fine for you, your traffic is good. But if you look at the profits, they're largely flowing through from your other income. this does not appear to be operational profits. When do you think the company can start posting operational profits, not purely an account of another income pass-through?
See, if you just to take you through, the format of the business itself, most of our business, is in the underlying SPVs. So the toll collections that we do get those into the SPVs, and BRNL as a sponsor and holding, holding company for these assets. I mean, you don't get to see those toll collections on the consolidated results of BRNL as yet. So most of the revenues are in the underlying SPVs, and most of our SPVs are also sort of having operational cash flows, barring one or two. As far as the business is concerned, we do believe at the operational level we are pretty much okay. We are doing good. Our traffic growth has been healthy for the last year. Even this quarter, last quarter, we had seen a healthy growth in traffic. And in terms of dividend flow, we expect to see that upstreaming happening probably in a year or two onwards from here, where we'll see cash flows getting upstreamed from these SPVs, from these assets to BRNL. So from that perspective, I think most of our assets are in a decent sort of phase of operations at this moment.
Okay, all right. Mr. Chaudhary, I want to ask you about two projects. One is your Sholapur toll project. Now, you had raised some money, and a smaller part of that, close to around 10% if I'm not mistaken, was to be utilized for this project. When can we expect completion of this project? So that's the first project that I'm asking about. The second part is the Orissa Expressway. Now, that was surrendered to NHAI, right? Is there anything expected? I mean, will the company get anything from there?
That's right. Yeah, we'll get a decent amount of compensation from there. I mean, obviously the idea was to foreclose that and get for an amicable settlement, but which didn't happen. So we have moved for arbitration, and that is pretty much ahead in terms of the process. So very soon we will see some sort of
give us a few numbers, sir. Coming, what is that amount? You're talking about a decent amount, arbitrary amount. What could that amount be with regard to this Orissa Expressway project? And also, if you could give us clarity, sir, on the other project that I asked you about, this Sholapur toll project. Go ahead, sir. Over to you.
Yes. Yeah, in Orissa Steel, I think, the compensation that we will get, we are confident of anything which is close to around north of 300 crores. If you see, we are invested close to around 200 crores. So the compensation that we get should be more than 300 crores. In Solapur, if you see, the project had got delayed initially because of some land acquisition issues that we had faced. We are pretty, around 70% through in this asset. And we can get a PCOD when we are 75% through in terms of the overall stretch, which we expect to be done by November, December. So this financial year, we should be able to start tolling for our 75 kilometers. And we expect the whole 100 kilometers to be up and running by March 19.
Okay. Back to the Orissa Expressway, you are asking for 300 crores, right, by way of compensation. How much is the NHAI saying they are willing to pay you?
No, we are saying that we have asked for 800 crores.
Okay.
It's not NHAI willing to pay us. I mean, we have moved for arbitration. We are in the arbitration process, and we do expect a favorable decision to come in our favor.
Okay, okay. Let me move on to another topic. The IPO proceeds, the money that you raised, it was used to repay Shrey for sponsor funds, for some interest-free debt. Some stakes were also raised in a couple of projects like Orissa Expressway and, the Solapur toll. It almost appears that the bigger beneficiaries were the Shrey shareholders rather than your company, Bharat Road Networks shareholders. If you could comment on that.
Yeah, if you see the object of the IPO that we had, I mean, obviously as BRNL, we were in the phase of consolidating our stake into these different SPVs. And a major part of the stake was lying with Shrey. So one of the objective for which we had raised capital was to sort of consolidate our holding into these SPVs. And that's what we did with buying out the shareholding and the sub-debt which Shrey had. So it was very much in line with the objective that we had while we went out in the market to raise capital.
All right. Thanks so much, Mr. Chaudhary, sir, for stopping by, trying to clarify most of those details. Your shareholders, they're waiting by. They want to see some delivery because as of now, post the IPO,